Determine the left-sided limit and the right-sided limit and the two-sided limit as x approaches 0 of 2x to the fourth minus 1 divided by x cubed minus 4x squared. Each of these involves the limit as x approaches 0 of 2x to the fourth minus 1 divided by x cubed minus 4x squared. The first thing to do is try plugging a 0 in for each of the x's. That will give 2 times 0 to the fourth minus 1 divided by 0 cubed minus 4 times 0 squared. 2 times 0 to the fourth is a 0, minus 1, divided by 0 cubed is a 0, minus 4 times 0 squared is a 0. 2 times 0 is a 0, minus 1 over 0 minus 4 times 0 is a 0. 0 minus 1 is a negative 1, 0 minus 0 is a 0. That 0 in the denominator isn't actually a 0 since x is only approaching 0 here, it does not reach the 0. But a limit result of a non-zero number divided by 0 is a positive infinity or negative infinity, where the sign of the infinity often depends on the side the limit is approaching from. Therefore, we will have to work out each of the one-sided limits separately. We have the left-sided limit indicated by the negative superscript on the 0 of the 2x to the fourth minus 1 over x cubed minus 4x squared. We have the right-sided limit of 0 indicated by the positive superscript on 0 of 2x to the fourth minus 1 over x cubed minus 4x squared. Let's start with the left-sided limit. The first thing to do is to factor the denominator so that we can see the factor or factors that are making 0 in the denominator. Leaving the numerator alone, looking at the denominator, it's a cubic, but it only has a cube term and a square term, and there's a common factor of x squared. Let's factor that x squared out, leaving behind an x and a minus 4. The factor in the denominator that's making 0 is the x. It's actually squared, so there's technically 2 of them, x times x, but x is approaching 0 here, so those are what is making 0 in the denominator. We're going to look a little closer at that factor. As x approaches 0 from the left side of 0 is a negative number. So when it's plugged in for that x, it will be a negative number. However, it's approaching to 0, so it will be a negative 0 that's placed in for that x there. All other x's will just have a 0 placed in for them. This gives 2 times 0 to the fourth minus 1 divided by this x will be replaced with a negative 0 squared because it's approaching to 0 from the left side, so it's a negative number, but it does approach to the 0. In the numerator, 0 to the fourth is 0. In the denominator, negative 0 squared is a positive because negative squared is positive, 0 squared is a 0. And then 0 minus 4 is a negative 4. In the numerator, 2 times 0 is 0, and then minus 1, over a positive 0 times a negative 4. Positive times negative is negative, 0 times 4 is a 0. 0 minus 1 is a negative 1 over a negative 0. Negative over negative is a positive. A non-zero over 0 is an infinity, and there's the result of the left-sided limit. The right-sided limit will work out in a similar fashion. It will factor the same, leaving the numerator alone, factor out the common factor of x squared in the denominator, leaves an x minus 4. Now we analyze the factor or factors that are making 0 in the denominator. This is the right-sided limit. Right side of 0 is a positive number, and it will therefore be placed in as a positive, though it limits to 0, so it'll be a positive 0 in for that x. All other x's will have a 0 placed in them. So that'll be 2 times 0 to the fourth minus 1 divided by a positive 0 squared, and then times 0 minus 4. Which gives 2 times 0 to the fourth is 0 minus 1 divided by a positive squared is a positive, 0 squared is a 0. times a 0 minus 4, which is a negative 4. 2 times 0 is a 0, minus 1 over a positive times a negative is a negative. 0 times 4 is a 0. 0 minus 1 is a negative 1 over a negative 0. A negative over a negative is a positive, and a non-zero over a 0 is an infinity. There's the result of the right-sided limit. The two-sided limit depends on the results of each of the one-sided limits. Here they are. They match each other. They're both positive infinity, so the two-sided limit up here will also be positive infinity. And there's the results of the three different limits.